In 1860, in the remote Swiss village of Saint-Villiers, a watchmaker named Louis Ulysse Chopard established a workshop that would one day generate billions. He never saw that day. The company he built with his own hands barely survived him, struggling through decades of obscurity while larger maisons captured the world's attention. The dials he produced were honest, well-finished, but unremarkable in a landscape already crowded with Patek, Vacheron, and Audemars. By the mid-20th century, Chopard was a fading name, kept alive by pride more than profit. Then came the year 1963. A family of German goldsmiths, the Scheufeles, made an offer for the entire company. Karl Scheufele III and his wife Karin did not come from watchmaking dynasties. They came from Pforzheim, a German town known for jewelry and precious metals, not for Swiss horology. Their acquisition was quiet, almost unnoticed, and it changed everything that followed. The visible world of Chopard today, the red carpets, the floating diamonds, the polished storefronts on Rue de la Paix, tells a story of effortless glamour. But the invisible story begins with a question nobody asked at the time. Why would a family of German goldsmiths bet their entire future on a Swiss watchmaker that was already failing? If you have ever glanced at a Chopard window and assumed it was still a family-held company from 1860, you are not alone. That assumption is the first crack in the narrative. The official history page from Chopard itself states it plainly. In 1963, the Scheufele family took over Chopard. Not inherited, not merged, taken over. The purchase was a bet on potential, not on pedigree. 2 decades before the Cannes red carpet, the same atelier smelled of brass shavings and uncertainty. The Scheufeles did not arrive with a grand plan to conquer haute horlogerie. They arrived with a goldsmith's eye for detail and a willingness to take risks that the original family could not stomach. That willingness produced the first rupture in the traditional watchmaking script. In 1976, Chopard introduced the happy diamonds concept. Diamonds floating freely between 2 sapphire crystals with no prongs to hold them. The idea was radical at a time when luxury jewelry was rigid, structured, and conservative. Critics called it frivolous. Collectors called it genius. The happy diamonds became an instant signature, a symbol that Chopard was no longer just a watchmaker, but a jeweler with a voice of its own. That invisible bet, a purchase on potential, not pedigree, is the kind of story that never makes it onto a brand's polished timeline. If you want to keep peeling back the layers behind names you thought you knew, subscribe so you don't miss the next revelation. And in the comments, tell me, what other watch brands do you assume are still original families? Your answer might reveal more cracks in the narrative. The official history records it in a single sentence. Happy Diamonds was born in 1976. Behind that sentence lies a decision that could have destroyed the company. The Scheufeles committed resources to an unproven concept while the brand was still fragile. That bet paid off, but it was only the beginning. In 1988, Chopard partnered with the Mille Miglia, the legendary Italian roadworks, a watchmaker aligning itself with vintage automobiles and the smell of burning rubber. This was not the behavior of a conservative Swiss house. It was the behavior of a family that understood desire over tradition. They knew that the owner of a vintage Ferrari was also the buyer of a luxury chronograph. Then came 1998, the year Chopard became the official partner of the Cannes Film Festival. The Palme d'Or, the red carpet, the flashbulbs. Chopard was suddenly the watch of cinema royalty. The official history states, in 1998, Chopard became an official partner of the Cannes Film Festival. But the common belief is wrong. Many assume Cannes was the moment Chopard transformed from a small watchmaker into a luxury powerhouse. In reality, Cannes was the culmination of 2 earlier gambles. Happy Diamonds and Mille Miglia, that had already reshaped the brand. The film festival amplified what was already there. You have probably heard of Chopard's floating diamonds, but the story behind that invention is as daring as the diamonds themselves. The Scheufeles did not invent the concept in a laboratory. They adapted it from a jewelry technique used for centuries, then applied it to a problem no one else had solved: how to make a diamond appear weightless. The solution required two crystals, a thin layer of oil, and a willingness to be mocked if it failed. The collector who sees only the red carpet misses the century of risk. You are not that collector. You already sensed that the dial is just the beginning. In 2013, Chopard launched the Journey to Sustainable Luxury initiative. This was not a marketing campaign. It was a fundamental rethinking of the supply chain, from mine to wrist. The company committed to sourcing raw materials responsibly, supporting artisanal mining communities, and reducing environmental impact. The official history records it. In 2013, Chopard launched the Journey to Sustainable Luxury. Then, in 2018, Chopard committed to using 100% ethical gold in all its manufacturing. Not a pilot program,
no
not a
dialogue
limited
or character
edition.
voices, met ambient sound
Every
only.
piece of jewelry and every watch movement that left the atelier would be made with gold traced to responsible sources. The official history states, in 2018, Chopard committed to using 100% ethical gold. You have just read two official histories, but the real story is the invisible risk behind them. A family betting that the chain of custody matters more than the dial. If that kind of hidden depth resonates with you, subscribe to keep uncovering these layers with each video. In the comments, share the one word that comes to mind when you consider this voluntary decision. Invisible, risk, courage, or something else entirely. If you have ever wondered whether a luxury brand can truly be ethical, Chopard's answer is a billion-dollar bet. The decision to go 100% ethical gold was not forced by regulation. It was not a response to consumer pressure. At that time, few luxury buyers were asking about gold provenance. It was a voluntary risk taken by a family that believed the invisible chain of custody mattered more than the visible dial. You expect the story to end with Khan, but the real pivot came 15 years later, hidden inside a commitment document signed in a Geneva boardroom. The Scheufeles bet that the future of luxury would be built on trust, not just on diamonds. They were right. Now the paradox is fully visible. Chopard is not the founder-controlled Swiss company that most buyers imagine. It is a company acquired by outsiders who had no watchmaking heritage, but possessed a goldsmith's intuition and a willingness to break every rule. The Happy Diamonds, the Mille Miglia, the Khan partnership, the ethical gold. Each was a departure from the safe path. Each was a risk that could have failed. The claim that Chopard's brand transformation began with Khan is a myth. The official timeline shows Happy Diamonds in 1976 and Mille Miglia in 1988, both well before the red carpet. Khan amplified the story. It did not create it. The claim that Chopard's ethical gold leadership is an old brand attribute is also false. The commitment began in 2018, a recent decision that required massive supply chain restructuring, and the claim that Chopard is only a watch brand is equally incomplete. Its official history presents it as active in both watchmaking and jewelry, with the jewelry side often driving the creative breakthroughs. The Happy Diamonds concept belongs as much to the jewelry atelier as to the watch movement. The billion-dollar decision was not a single moment. It was a series of interlocking risks. The 1963 acquisition, the 1976 Happy Diamonds gamble, the 1988 Mille Miglia partnership, the 1998 Khan agreement, the 2013 sustainability pledge, and the 2018 ethical gold commitment. Each decision was a bet that the invisible, the supply chain, the design philosophy, the founding myth, mattered more than the visible. The Scheufeles succeeded because they understood something that founders often forget. A brand is not a birthright. It is a living organism that must be reimagined every generation. Louis Ulysse Chopard built a workshop. The Scheufeles built an empire. They did it by seeing potential where others saw failure. Imagine the weight of a gold coin in your palm, the sound of a crown being set into a bezel, the feel of a leather strap warming against your skin. That is the sensory truth of Chopard. The diamonds float between sapphire crystals, catching light from every angle, and the second hand sweeps across a dial that owes its existence to a German goldsmith's decision to buy a failing Swiss watchmaker. The collector who only reads the price tag buys the wrong story. The collector who reads the invisible decisions, who knows that the glittering surface was built on a foundation of risk, buys one brand that lasts 2 centuries. In our next chapter, we go deeper into how another family saved a dying watch brand. Except this time, the founder's bloodline eventually returned to reclaim what was lost. That story belongs to another sweep of the second hand. For now, the reflection settles. You are holding not a watch, but a century of decisions. The diamond dances between 2 sapphire crystals, forever in motion. A silent reminder that the billion-dollar decision was not a single moment, but 100 small risks, each invisible to the casual glance. The second hand sweeps without a tremor, a quiet pact between craftsman and owner. If this resonance calls to you, there is a place among the circle that honors it. Step inside the atelier. The atelier in Saint-Villiers, where Louis Ulysse Chopard first set his tools to brass, is now a footnote in a story written far from those mountains. The Scheufeles did not erase that origin. They transformed it, preserving the name while rewriting the soul. To step inside that atelier is to accept an ongoing conversation. If the invisible decisions behind that diamond have stirred something in you, subscribe so the next story finds you as it unfolds. Then in the comments, tell us, what single hidden risk in your own life proved most worth taking? The second hand does not pause. Neither should this connection. You walk away from this story with a different eye. The next time you see a Chopard window, notice the floating diamonds not as ornaments, but as evidence of a gamble taken in 1976 by goldsmiths who had no birthright to protect. The dial you admire was paid for by decisions made in boardrooms and ateliers far from the red carpet. The true ownership of a luxury brand is not a deed passed down through bloodlines. It is the courage to see the invisible, the supply chain, the design philosophy, the founding myth, as mutable, as something to be earned again each generation. The Scheufeles earned it, not by inheriting a throne, but by forging one. Now you know that the billion-dollar decision was never a single transaction signed in 1963. It was the willingness to look past the visible and trust the hidden architecture of risk, craft, and moral conviction. That is the only inheritance that cannot be bought or sold. It must be built. You notice, the parting is not between components, but between what is seen and what is understood. The goldsmith's hand that set the first floating diamond did not own a watchmaking lineage. They owned a willingness to fail publicly, to be called frivolous by an industry that prized rigidity above all else. That willingness is the invisible material from which Chopard's empire was cast. Not gold, not diamonds, not a founding date from 1860. The willingness to acquire a failing company, to launch a radical concept, to partner with car races and film festivals, to commit to ethical sourcing before the market demanded it. The Scheufeles did not inherit a throne. They built a forge in an industry that believed only bloodlines could produce heat. The result is not a watch or a jewel. It is a lesson that the visible dial is always the least interesting part of any creation. The only inheritance that cannot be bought or sold is the courage to see what others overlook. That is what the billion-dollar decision truly purchased. and it is the only thing that cannot be stolen, copied, or worn thin by time.